I was born in 1925. My mom and dad, and I was born in their home. And then my dad had just come home from the war, the first war, first war, and he was badly wounded. So it was too bad. He had trouble breathing and really in bad shape. However, they had me and my brother, Hugh Campbell, and my dad was a ventriloquist, and he did a lot of entertaining with a doll with a lot of the armed forces in the Second World War. But anyway, let's see what it is. I grew up in Calgary and went to school, high school, and then I met my husband in the Air Force, and he was from Ontario. So we met in the Crystal Skating Rink. It was a well-known skating rink then, and we got to like each other very much. But then he went away in the Air Force down east, and but we got engaged before he went, which was really nice. And he was gone for 3 years. And then when he came home, I was still waiting. And he said, well, we might as well get married. We waited this long. So in about another month or so, my dad said, oh, you know what you're doing, okay, get married. We didn't really know what we were doing, but anyway, we got married, and we lived in Calgary for a while, and he worked there with General Supplies. There was a car motor place. And then we decided we would go to BC. And my mom and dad had moved there, and it was a lovely place to live. So we moved there too, and he had to work there. And we went to move to Chilliwack, where he got a job. And we loved it in Chilliwack, made lots of friends, and it was so beautiful there. And then we went to the Chilliwack Alliance Church, and we loved it so much. So one evening, we were at church, and the pastor said, would anyone like to give their lives to go to serve the Lord in another country? So I poked my husband, and he looked at me, and before we know it, we were going up to the front. And then we stood at the front, and then he said, well, you really dedicated your lives then to serve the Lord? We said, yes, we would. So we went home sort of in a daze, what are we doing? And our son was out here at Prairie Bible Institute, and we phoned him and told him, what are you guys doing? And he said, I'm the one that wants to go away. And so anyway, we said, that's what we're doing. We're going away. So then before that, the director of Overseas Missionary Fellowship, a well-known mission group started by Hudson Taylor from China. And we phoned the head director there in Toronto, and he said, well, we have an opening for you if you would be willing to go to the Philippines. Well, I didn't even know where that was, but anyway, we said, oh, sure, we'll go. So we packed up our things and said goodbye to our daughter, Ben, and our son, and headed for the Philippines in about 4 months. and we just got rid of all our stuff and set off. And we got to the Philippines, and there was a job waiting there for my husband in the office in Manila. And so he worked there, and I worked in the mission home, and I looked after missionaries coming in from different areas. And if they were tired or sick or they had to be fed, I was the one that helped. And then our son, in the meantime, he came over, and he was in India with a group. He was in India for a while, and then he went to South Thailand to work. We ended up going there. He met a nice girl, a missionary girl, and they were getting married, so we went over there to the wedding. And our daughter went, and her daughter. And then we came back to the Philippines, and we traveled all over the Philippines, meeting people and serving where we could. My husband went away out into the forests and jungles, and he got sick by walking through logs, and he fell through the logs, and the poison got into his system. So he wasn't well. I was really worried. But anyway, after quite a while, they said he should come home. But before that, my son said he was going from India, from South Thailand. He was going to Nepal, and do you think we could go there and meet him? So we said, well, we'll pray about it. So we went to our superintendent in the Philippines, and we said we would like to go to Nepal, see our son. And he said, well, have you got the money? Well, we didn't have much. So we said, no, not really. Well, he says, you better pray about it. So anyway, one night my husband was sitting next to me at a concert, and he said, oh, I was going to tell you that we can't go to Nepal because we don't have the money. I said, oh, well, that's okay. And then he said, we don't have the money then, but he said, I phoned the girl in the bank in Canada, and she said, yes, you could have that money because it's in your name in Canada. So we went to Nepal and had a wonderful time, and a lot of the kids there were working, and an English lady offered her home for us to stay in, and it was a wonderful experience. And then my husband was getting worse, so we came back to the Philippines, but he didn't get any better. But anyway, we had to take a conference, and we made meals and looked after over 300 people at this conference. But that finished him. He was so tired. And then we did travel a bit more, and then our superintendent said, I think you should come home. So we packed up our things and headed home. Well, we didn't know where we were going to stay at home anymore. We'd given everything away or didn't have it. And there was an older lady missionary there, and she said, I know some ladies who had built a home during the war for unwed mothers. And now she says, we're old and we think we should give up that house. Would you be interested in it? Right on the waterfront of Victoria. So we said, well, we don't have the money, so we can't think about it. And OMF, our mission, doesn't go into debt. So we sort of let it go. And one day, though, we were asked to go over to the Philippines, to Victoria, and speak at a meeting. And while we were over there, these ladies, old ladies, now for me, I'm not saying, they said, won't you come and just see this house? Well, it was right along the waterfront of Victoria. Beautiful home, and about 8 bedrooms in it. And we said, we went to the meeting, the ladies were all there, and they said, well, Mr. Shortt, what do you think? And my husband said, well, ladies, I have to tell you that it's a beautiful home, but you know, we never go into debt. We never go into debt, so we'll have to turn you down. And the one lady that was in charge of the finances, she said, but Mr. Shortt, we want to give it to you. Well, his mouth fell open and I couldn't shut mine. So we phoned our superintendent in Toronto and told him, and he said, I can't believe this. So anyway, he came out to see it. All the furniture that was old antique things, you know. Lovely. They were so gracious. And they had to go into nursing homes and that because they couldn't handle it anymore. So we said, okay, we'll take it. Well, it was 8 bedrooms, and I had to clean them all, do the wash, do everything, make the meals for a long time for these missionaries coming in. But it was wonderful, you know, to meet these people. And we stayed there for years, and then finally, my husband, he had to give up. And so we moved to Richmond, BC, and he got really worse. So we said we'd have to find a place in Richmond. Well, some of them, they were saying we really need a house in Richmond now. So here's somebody, Chinese people gave us a house in Richmond, a lovely home. And it's still there, they still work in it. And they sold the home in Victoria for millions of dollars. Yeah, such a story, isn't it? And so anyway, my husband, he got worse, and finally the Lord took him home. And my family in Calgary said, you should come to Calgary and we'll look after you. So that's where I landed back here in Calgary. And then I worked for the mission quite a bit. We had meetings and everything. But you know, my health was failing and I had some bad falls. And so they took me around to find out where I could live. And my grandson is an ES man, and he found this place. And so that's my story.